Hey everyone, this is Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net, and today we're going to be talking about AMC because they are actually they are going to court. They are going to actual court for antitrust laws, potential antitrust laws. They've actually not been convicted yet, but a motion to dismiss the case has been denied as the judge found there was enough evidence to show that there might have been collusion to put a family-owned movie theater out of business in Texas. Now, to understand more about this, let's have a little bit of a history lesson. Back in the 1900s, I think it was 48 or something like that, Paramount Pictures was sued in a case that is famously known as the Paramount Antitrust case or the Paramount Decree. And what happened was, back then, the studios made the movies, they marketed the movies, and then they distributed the movies in their own theaters. So they had studios, they own networks, and they own theaters. Basically, if you had an independent film, it was very much impossible for your movie to get anywhere. It wasn't going to air on the networks. The studio sure as heck weren't going to pay you money to release it. And the theaters, they weren't going to release it either. It was an ironclad monopoly. It was called vertical integration, which is becoming a bigger concern these days, most notably with the recent purchase of Fox by Disney, but that's a topic for another day. Well, anyway, that Paramount Decree is actually, and this is very interesting timing that this is happening, the courts have actually considered re-looking at that recently because with online distribution and stuff, there has been some debate on whether or not that actually should even still be a thing. Like, you know, if you can't get your movie in the theaters, you can put it online. There's nothing stopping you from distributing it yourself. And so there was already a little bit of mumbling that maybe this might eventually go away. But after this case, and depending on what happens with here, that thing might be here to stay because this, I think, shows why this is still important. So according to Deadline, Goliath just took a whack from David in court in Texas today as a federal judge tossed AMC Entertainment's attempts to toss out Vita Cinema's antitrust suit over the now shuttered theater's Spanish-language showings of first-run studio pictures. A trial is still probably a way off in what has been an over 3-year legal battle so far, but District Judge Alfred Bennett on Tuesday put things en route in rejecting AMC's motion for summary judgment. It is a rejection with allegations of illegal horizontal agreements between AMC and its thousands of screens and Walt Disney Company, Warner Brothers, Fox, Paramount, Universal, Sony, and Lionsgate may have the studios already feeling a little of the heat. That's because, again, the studios were trying to get this Paramount Decree overturned after so many years, and a case like this does not help that case. Though the court agrees with AMC that such evidence of horizontal agreements is precarious, screening out marginal cases is not an appropriate use of this court's use of the court's summary judgment function, Judge Bennett writes in his order made public today. Based on the evidence, the court cannot say a reasonable juror could not find the existence of horizontal agreements between the supplier. Probably not what the corner office wanted to hear. First filed in April 2015, Houston-based Viva claimed that it was kneecapped when AMC threw their inconsiderable weight around and threatened not to show Warner Brothers, Fox, Paramount, Disney, Universal, Sony, or Lionsgate films if the studio did business with the local theater. Now, that in and of itself is, of course, illegal, but what was unique about the Viva Cinemas is that Viva Cinemas, as noted before, but I'll definitely clarify, was a Spanish-language theater. And the Spanish-language theater would either show Spanish dubs of big blockbusters during the first run, or they would show subtitled versions. Around here, that still happens sometimes. There's a theater near me that actually has closed captioning, subtitled showings. They have Spanish showtime. And the GDV theater in Buena Park that I go to for the 4DX, you see screenings all the time that have Korean subtitled films, or like, Mission Impossible 6 and The Meg and stuff like that. But they've got Korean subtitles because they usually cater to a mostly Korean audience. So that's kind of what Viva Cinema did. And AMC apparently was saying, well, they're too close to us, so that will affect our business. And they told the studios and them colluded, supposedly, not to give them any movies. Now, they might have gotten movies eventually, but after a couple of weeks, a lot of people have already seen them. And from what I understand, well, I could be wrong, AMC, when they got the movies, even started showing subtitled versions of the films themselves. And once Viva Cinemas went under, they stopped. At least that's what I'm under the impression of. Continuing, Viva has also provided sufficient evidence to survive summary judgment on the issue of harm to competition by showing the availability of first-run wide-release English films with Spanish subtitles or dubbing has been reduced to almost zero in the defined geographic area, even within the potentially larger 5-mile geographical area. The Southern District of Texas judge also adds of the 2013 closed independent exhibitor. So yeah, basically they were showing the subtitled films at AMC. Then when this theater went under, it wasn't much of a concern anymore. So there's enough there to at least suggest that AMC was trying to put this little independent, Spanish-owned movie theater out of business. And in Texas, there's a lot of Spanish people. I know some people don't like to hear that, considering, the political climate over there, but it's true. They're like in California, there's just a lot of them. In an earlier filing, Viva claimed that its Spanish-speaking ticket buyers sought big-budget Hollywood films that are dubbed or have subtitles, and it served that need. Viva also said that its patrons constituted a submarket that does not really have an alternative. Back in 2016, AMC argued that just 7% of the local population speaks only Spanish. Swinging back, AMC argued that movies are observed through more than just language. Viewers also observe storylines, body language, sound effects, except understanding what's going on is a little important. I mean, I see foreign language films all the time. I love foreign language films. I know some people don't like reading subtitles, but, in my opinion, I've told people this, you miss out on some of the best cinema when you don't see foreign language films. Heck, the movie that I selected for the best film of last year, which was 2017, as of this recording, was The Insult. That was a foreign language subtitled film. Would I have enjoyed The Insult without subtitles? No, because I wouldn't understand what's going on. That's a very dialogue-heavy movie. And even Mel Gibson learned that, because when he was making The Passion of the Christ, not a lot of people know this, but originally it was going to be without subtitles. He was going to let the images do the talking, and then eventually he came around and he put subtitles there. Now, I have watched The Passion of the Christ without subtitles. That's kind of an experiment. And yeah, the movie actually is still pretty good. I mean, it was clear when the subtitles were gone, it was meant to be visual, and you are so familiar with the story of Jesus that the subtitles don't really matter. But it was better with the subtitles. It was much better with the subtitles. You could understand it, and you could get involved in. There were like little things like that scene with like him and making the table. It's like, there's no way you would have understood that without the subtitles. So yeah, I don't agree with AMC there one bit. AMC does not explain why 7% of Houston's population is not a sufficient submarket. Judge Bennett responded 2 years ago in a previously denied AMC move to shut down the case. Yeah, actually that's true. Especially when, Movie Pass is bragging about 6% of the market. Why isn't AMC? That was just a dumb argument. Today, the studio lobby group of the MPAA did not respond to requests for comment on the latest order. On Tuesday, Judge Bennett expressed his own sense of limitations of Viva's case, with no firm citation of a conspiracy put before him so far. Still, the district judge wants to see the matter fully test, and to that end, the rule of reason analyst kicks in. Quote, Viva points to 4 things to support an interference that such agreements existed. 1, the fact that all the suppliers uniformly refused to license the first-run movies to Viva. That's a big one. 2, evidence that the suppliers knew AMC requested a clearance from all the other suppliers at issue. 3, evidence that the suppliers' uniform compliance with AMC's request was publicly available knowledge. 4, that such action was against each individual supplier's self-interest absent AMC's request, unless they all acted uniformly as any individual supplier would want their movie in as many theaters as possible and would not want to lose any market space to that other suppliers. All which means Viva's may be closed. The person in this spelling in this article. but this potentially far-reaching case is certainly not. Oh, which means Viva... Oh, yeah, Viva may be closed. Yeah, the theater, I'm sorry. So, anyway, let's go back up to the logo, just there. Anyway, so, yeah, it's going to be very interesting. In my opinion, it sounds, although, again, the judge wants it to be put to the test, and I think that would be a good thing to do as well, to see if a jury agrees that there was collusion. It sure sounds like there was at least a little bit. AMC Theaters, out of all the theater chains, is known for playing the least friendly. Not that they're all nice. In fact, most of them aren't. Like, when I lived in Sacramento and I always liked to go to the Esquire IMAX, it always took like a month or two for them to get like the major Hollywood movies because there was like a Regal in the downtown mall that has since been replaced with like a new stadium. And it was a dumpy theater. It was horrible. But the theaters have like a 5-mile radius rule where like if a theater shows up within 5 miles of that theater, only one of the theaters could have a movie to avoid confusion. And so usually the mall would get the big budget movie first and IMAX would have to get it later. Now I have since argued that specialty theaters like IMAX and this theater where they are showing the films subtitled for a certain demographic should probably be eliminated for that rule, but nevertheless it does exist. So when cases like this come around, the big chain is usually going to win. And the fact that it was uniformly all the movie theaters, that might be something to consider here. But I'm also curious about what's going to happen because we've gotten some news that was threatening to bring this Paramount decree to an end. And the studios want it to end for this reason because 2 companies came up and they said they wanted to buy movie theaters. Netflix, showed that they were considering buying movie theaters because they were making movies, but because of their strategy of day-and-date releases, most theaters would not carry their movies. So they wanted to buy movie theaters so they could show their own movies. And then the other company is Amazon. Now, I was a little less offended by the Netflix one, but this case kind of reminded me of all this, so I'm against that now officially. But the Amazon one especially scared me because Amazon wants to buy, allegedly, Landmark Theaters. And they're like a whole chain of independent theaters that specialize in independent movies. You won't see too many superhero movies there. And by the way, they're partnered with MoviePass. Well, Amazon is making a few dozen movies a year now. And what scares me about them buying it, so that unfortunately means for me that if Amazon buys these theaters will show nothing but Amazon movies, and Landmark, as being one of the biggest chains, it's sort of a chain, but it's really franchise owned, or it's privately owned. There's a lot of them, but it's not corporate. They show most of the independent films. Amazon's just going to kick them out for their own movies, which means that this decree is still important. It's still very much important. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this particular case. And I'm rooting for Viva Cinemas. They might not be there anymore, but hey, maybe them winning the lawsuit, maybe they can open a brand new theater and they can capitalize on that market again. I don't know. Maybe they'll just avoid some of the messy tape and move it a couple miles further out away from AMC. And if AMC did this, of course, shame on them. I mean, they have so many theaters, get so many movies. Why they need to pick on the family-owned theater that shows Spanish language films? I don't know. But you know what? I would love to know what you have to think about this. Do you think there was collusion? Do you think there wasn't collusion? If Viva Cinemas reopened, think they would accept MoviePass and partner with them? I don't know. I would love to know. So comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly. As always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.